Okay, so we're on to the second ski club in England. I've made some adjustments to the audio because I didn't think those videos sounded too great. Um, so, Weardale is the other club that I'm heavily involved with, particularly the year just gone with the pandemic on. I was bored out of my mind, and Weardale Ski Club had plenty of jobs for me to do, and I get on really well with the people there. So here it is on the map. Again, it's northeast facing. It's sort of in a bowl, certainly to the left, and there are two Doppelmayr button toes, which annoyingly people keep calling pomas, and they're not pomas. They're just a button toe. Um, and I guess there's some people at the moment that are kind of wanting another toe to be installed somewhere where it says waterfalls and Swinhop Burn Head, going up that sort of gully there at the top. It'd open up a bit more terrain. But as it is, a lot of people just tend to get to the top of the lift, shuffle their way along to the left and the right, and then follow various routes down. And it doesn't look very big on the map, but there is a tremendous amount of terrain to be covered there. And yeah, it's very easy to get to from the road relative to Rays. It's about a 10-minute walk in. So that's the piece map. Lots of different runs. One green. I don't know if you have green runs in America, but we go green as the easiest, then blue being easy-ish, red, intermediate / hard, and then black being the hardest. So there's a few black lines there. Here are the conditions with minimal snow. Again, we have to make do amends sometimes. It's kind of fun. I don't know what it is. I mean, call me quaint, but I think it's quite fun when we ski there on minimal snow. It's a challenge. But with good snow, it's well, there's lots of these gullies that sort of appear, and it's just fantastic terrain to ski on. Very different to Rays, really. Quite bumpy and lumpy. Some more photos there. On the bottom right, you can see, and the top left, you can see how it's been groomed. And then sometimes there's too much snow. And the top left and the bottom left photos, there is the road that goes up to it, and they had to get a digger in that time to clear the snow out of the way before the snowplow would come along. And some big cornices there that our main man Steve Luard is showing off, and even the skidoo gets stuck sometimes. And the bottom right, you can see how the snow's overtopping a 6-foot high snow fence, which is it's great if we can get that amount of snow. And generally, what will happen is we'll ski on it for the first day until it's all pieced out by skiers, and then the piece machine will run over it and flatten it back out for the following days. Talking of which, here's the club snow groomer. We've got some information on that here. Actually, I haven't got any information on it, but it's from 1987. It was originally. Should I put something down about this? Oh, well, it was originally owned by Cairngorm Mountain, who you'll see later on in the video. They had it for a number of years, where it was called Smoky Joe, and they then sold it in around 2000 to Yad Moss Ski Club, which is just up the road from Weardale. They had it for about 10-15 years and then sold it to us because they bought another one. And this machine replaced a much smaller piston bully from the early 80s. It is old, but we've replaced all the hydraulics on it, new hydraulic motors here and there. The tracks were refitted or brand new about 15 years ago, so they're quite new. I've recently made some new decals for the windows. And yeah, it's a real workhorse. It pushes around a lot of snow, and it's not too complicated to drive. And we can use it to move people around if we really want to. So, onto the lifts, what you're here for. The lifts at Weardale are a feat of local engineering and good old school ingenuity. They are unique because they have pylons that, although ARTA design plans supplied by Doppelmayr were manufactured locally in the UK. The lower drive stations have also been modified to include overhead I-beams to assist with the maintenance and replacement of ball wheel bearings. So you can see that in the lower left photograph, that structure with the A-frame at the back, we put together because it was necessary to change the ball wheel round. And so essentially what I'm saying here is that the sheaves, Doppelmayr, the ball wheel, Doppelmayr, the gearbox and engine, oh, not the engine, but the gearbox and drivetrain, that's all Doppelmayr. All the rope sensors, sheave sensors, that's Doppelmayr. And the platforms are Doppelmayr, but everything else was built here in the UK, or the tow hangers, they're Doppelmayr, to save cost on importing stuff, because when these were put together in the 1970s, transporting stuff from Europe to England wasn't as easy as it is now, and so it was just best to put stuff together locally. These lifts are driven by diesel engines. We could do them on electric now, but that's how they were done to start with. The engines are from small lorries or trucks of the era in 1975 and 1978 respectively, and there just was no electricity on site at the time, so that's why they're put in, and it provides a method of varying the speed really easily, because you just simply adjust the throttle of the engine. And that means the speed of these lifts is wildly variable. At the moment it's set at about 3 meters per second or 590 feet per minute. But once I've had the lift running at full throttle, during which the gearbox was very noisy, and the lift was measured to run at a whopping 5.6 meters per second or 1,102 feet per minute, which is just too fast for all but the best skiers to use, because that button just goes flying by. And we'd never ever run it at that speed, probably 4 meters at the absolute max. The first lift was installed in 1975 and runs from 480 meters to 595 meters, and has a length of just over 500 meters. So the lift in the top right picture is that lift, and in the top left is that lift, and the top right you can see the two lifts as they overlap slightly. The first lift was installed for the low cost of £9,000, which is probably about $13,000 in 1975. Everything was made off site. The towers and return station structure were all manufactured locally by Mr. John Vickers, and the steel wire rope from British Ropes. The army were involved in setting up the lift as a training exercise, though I can't really imagine in what situation they would need to set up a ski lift on a battlefield. They used their own helicopter supplied by Army Air Corps Topcliffe and had everything in place in just half a day, so that's all it took to lift all that stuff up the mountain and get it set up. They were very quick back then. The lift was originally installed with a wire rope detection system not in use. So that apparently it was supplied, but it was never installed until later on. The lift is just under 500 meters long and gives 103 meters of vertical rise, has 6 pylons, each standing at 20 feet or 6 meters high, which allow for significant snowfall before the tow becomes unusable, something that I think the team at Rays and Yad Moss would quite like, as their lifts get buried fairly often. And the other good thing about having nice high pylons is we want to do some night skiing there soon, and we can mount a load of lights on top of the pylons. The second lift was installed for the low cost of £14,000 in 1979. As previously mentioned, to save on transport costs, the only thing to be provided by Doppelmayr were the ball wheels, gearboxes, transmissions for the engine, belt drive, sheave assemblies for the towers, the spring boxes and the buttons, as well as the drive station structure. The towers and return stations were all manufactured locally by John Vickers, blah 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 blah. However, unfortunately, the towers on this lift were thankfully galvanised, much to the club's relief of the club's volunteers, who have to repaint the lower lift every 8 to 10 years, as a result of the horrendous weather on site. So unfortunately the lower lift has got no galvanised parts, and so we have to paint it round the clock basically. This time the lift was fully assembled and hauled on site by hand, no helicopter. A great feat of strength from two club members, Gilbert Graham and Ian McIntosh. Ian transported by hand the 220 10-kilogram blocks of concrete for the lift's counterweight across the fell, each time walking 190 metres uphill with the concrete in a rucksack, while Gilbert, with the other help of the others, got the pylons up the fell and erected using winches and dedicated hardware. I don't know how they did that. The lift is this one's just under 430 metres long and gives 78 metres of rise, although sections of it are steeper than the first lift. It has 5 pylons, each standing at 16 foot, 4.8 metres high. Again, much better for snow control. The two lifts at Weardale F1 and F2 now have a much more sensible control system than what was originally installed. The current system now has stop buttons at each pylon, plus the load and unload area, as well as a trip gate at the top and brittle bars, or as they call them, piano tuning forks, located below the haul rope to stop the tow in case the rope falls off its sheave and into the cable catches. There are multiple keys and interlocks to allow the lift to be started and for security. The speed is controllable by a throttle lever similar to what you might find on a petrol generator or pressure washer. This wasn't the case, as it used to be a brick positioned carefully on top of the accelerator pedal. Applying pressure onto the thing would make it quicker. The lift has no operators. They do not have a lift operators at Weardale. No one likes to be standing around and sitting all day in the cold. So the lifts are strictly self-service and usually require 7 to 6 members per day who wear a ski tow operator, who are just skiing around and are on call essentially if they're needed. A couple of snowmobiles and a piston bully are on site to help with ski operations, again driven by volunteers. We also have a couple of quad bikes, a flail mower, and lots of other cool toys really. They're really well equipped. The lift at Weardale, I'm reading the same page again. Sorry about that, Teddy. Right, so here's some more photos. This lift does not have a head frame. It has the cross arms that hold the sheaves. So instead the head frame is removable with a winch on it. And we just move it around from one tower to another as and when needed. In this photo, Steve Lum, who's later featured in an interview on camera, is swapping out some of the sheaves with ones that have got new bearings in them. The sheaves themselves are always fine, it's just the bearings wear out every sort of 10-15 years, so they have to be replaced. Some of the towers just have 2 compression sheaves on them, some of them have 4 depression sheaves. By the way, compression, there's so much mixture, but I always say compression is the same as a support sheave, and a depression is one that pushes the rope down. So in the pylon you can see on screen now it has 2 of both, 2 compression, 2 depression, and some of them they have 4 compression and no depression ones. We don't have any that have just depression sheaves. Here's some photos from the past. If you want to look in more detail, please pause the video. This is all the early days and setting up the first lift. Moving earth around to flatten the piece a little bit while they're building the foundations. And early contraptions that were taken up the hill. Building the main club hut, which is quite sizable. It's really quite big. Certainly you can get a good 50 people in there. Even have a little dance if you wanted to, I guess. Have a little dance in there. We've got a composting toilet, which is, I think we all like that. Doesn't smell at all. Some more old photos. look at the size of that piston body. It is tiny, the old one they used to have. Like, I mean, you know, if you stood next to it, the cab was barely higher than you were, but and with just one seat. And the modern one is just so big in comparison. This is a video from Ski Sunday, which is a program that's broadcast on BBC Two on Sunday evenings, and they cover a little bit about the ski area. So I'll play this.
Safety first. Now, most UK snow sports enthusiasts could tell you about the Scottish ski resorts.
But what about the English ones? Not so sure now, are you?
In a feature shot last winter before the COVID pandemic put the UK in lockdown, Tim Warwood hit the road in search of a hidden gem.
If you think that skiing and snowboarding in England is reserved to only indoors and dry slopes, then think again, because nestled no more than 30 minutes from Durham, in the heart of the North Pennines, is this place, Weardale Ski Area. Here is how it works. First and foremost, check the weather. Obviously, north of England doesn't get a lot of snow. Then number two, you've got to check that this place is even open. It's run by volunteers, so you've got to make sure there's someone here to turn the lift on. Then number three, drive to a small village called Westgate, park your car about 15 minutes back that way in a farmer's field, and then make the short walk over to the ski lift. Just casually getting on a 1960s Pommer lift powered by a tractor engine. Woo! This is so good. How about that, look? 2 Pommer lifts drag you to the top here. Let's go have some. I mean, it's heavy, the snow's a little bit wet, sticky in places. Come on, what do you expect? We're in England, snowboarding. I'll tell you what, the pistes are not too bad. Just have some of this. Skiing in England, top to bottom, on England's longest run. Really nice, smooth runs. The volunteers spend the summer picking all the stones off the runs, so it's actually running like a carpet with a little bit of snow on top. It's amazing. A little bit of a powder turn around here. Oh, hold tight. Look at this, little pockets of powder on the side. Woo-hoo-hoo. Woo-hoo-hoo. Oh, there's runs everywhere you look. Spoiled for choice. Woo-hoo-hoo. How about that?
Weardale Ski Club began in 1963 when Swinhope Moor was identified as the perfect place for snow sports in the North Pennines. Since its inception nearly 60 years ago, the club has depended on the voluntary work of its dedicated members.
Being across the Facebook groups, and it's a real sense of community here. And I think that was showed in the summer. I think you put a post up about everybody coming and chipping in and helping with the fences and stuff.
Yeah, it's very much a club that's owned by the members and run by the members. And without them helping, we couldn't keep it going. We have work parties in the summer where we come and do everything from snow fencing to repair the machinery, service the lifts, cut the grass, drain it, you name it.
Even though there isn't the most amount of snow at the moment, it's still fully rideable, isn't it?
Yeah, if it's cold enough, if the ground's solid, you can ski on a centimetre of snow. You know, you really don't need a lot of snow.
The other thing that impresses me are the webcams, because actually as a member you can just log on, take a quick look and go, oh yeah, the ski hill looks pretty good today, I think I'll head up there.
We actually have 2 web cameras, one points up the slope and the other one points down the slope. The high resolution photographs, so we have quite a good view of what's going on.
Yeah. So what you're saying, that you can basically assess the situation from your bed,
yes,
and then decide whether to get out of bed or not.
That's right, yeah. Yep.
Talk us through the Piste Basher.
We bought the Piste Basher about 15 years ago now, and it's invaluable.
Yeah.
A lot of our snow is wind blown. We collect it in the snow fences, and then we can spread it about, and then it prolongs the ski season.
Why do you think this place has such a good appeal? Why do you think it's such a magical little place?
I think the sort of grassroots thing, the way you hike across that that moor there to begin with. You know, you can only get here if you make an effort. It's not all handed to you.
Yeah.
You've got to earn your turns, so to speak.
There you go. That's it, isn't it? Earn your turn, exactly. How long have you been coming to Weardale then?
Since the late 60s.
Late 60s?
Yes.
It's been going that long?
That's right, it has. It was built after 63, the bad winter in 63.
What is it about this place that keeps people coming back? Because it's not the easiest of day skiing, is it?
Microclimate, isn't it? You come here to go skiing. If you can ski here, you can ski anywhere.
What first brought you up here? How did you discover it?
Through word of mouth, really. Yeah. Knew a couple of members who were here. This was obviously 20 years ago. It was before widespread internet and Facebook. They still operate an answer machine service where someone actually records a message to tell you what the conditions are like.
Wow, so that's how it used to work before Twitter and the internet?
Yeah, exactly.
You'd phone up an answer machine and you'd hear a message, good morning.
And often you would be ringing up on the morning to see whether it was running or not.
Your first generation.
Yeah.
This is the third generation.
Yeah.
It's going to be fourth and fifth generation. Is the, you know, keep the family up here skiing?
Yeah. I've got another granddaughter who's 7. She's had some skiing lessons at Sulsworth. So
she's dying to come up, yeah.
She's dying to come. She was trying to come today, but she's not.
She had school.
She's got school. Well, the sun has come out, the clouds have parted, and don't get me wrong, Val d'Isere this isn't, but it's just as beautiful. Look at that. I think I can see the sea.
Oh, it's fun. It is fun.
Do not get many days in England like this.
If you need any further proof as to just how beautiful the hills around Weardale and the Northern Pennines can be, check out this clip filmed by Jamie Cummings last week. Absolutely stunning.
What a